So today we're going to answer this. Where do bears live? Now, this is a sentence in itself, but I've forgotten something. And I have a feeling you're all shouting at me, full stop, Mrs. Footer. Where do bears live? It could be a full stop, but I'm asking you a question. Where do bears live? So I have to put a question mark at the end, and that's my title, so you can underline that. And I'm thinking, where do bears live? And what I want you to do is to look through anything you've got. So it might be a book, it might be a video, it might be the fact sheets that we've put on the Padlet, could be anything you know. You might even ask somebody, where do bears live? And we're going to make a list. Now there are two sorts of list. There is a list that goes down the page, a bit like a shopping list that Mummy might have, or Daddy, but we're not going to do that one today. We're going to do a list that goes along with lots of words, and we're going to split them up with something. I think you might recognise it. So I'm thinking, where might a bear live? I know bears live in the Arctic. So I'm going to write Arctic. Arctic. Now there's things you have to remember about these things. This is the start of a sentence, but also it's the name of a place. So it's the name, and it needs a capital letter. So one place is the Arctic, and I'm going to use a little comma. Can you see it's just a little? A full stop is a dot, and a comma has a little tail on it. And it's only little, it's not very big. So we're going to split up our places with commas, and they just show that there's a new thing. So it's the Arctic. Pandas, they live in China. So I'm going to put a comma, and then I'm going to put China, and I have to remember capital letter China. And you might have to look up how to spell some of these words, because they probably aren't all phonetic, so you can't necessarily sound them all out. So the Arctic, China, to put a little comma. Now, I know also, well, you could write loads, you could find loads, but what you have to remember is on the last one, you don't put a comma, you write and I'm going to write Canada as my last one. Goodness me, I've gone a bit wobbly there, haven't I? Canada. Canada. I'm going to just straighten that one up a little bit, because it's gone a little bit crooked. Let's put it up here a bit. That's a bit better. So, where do bears live is the question, and I've come up with Arctic, China and Canada. But I think you're going to find more than those three. Just remember that there's a comma between each of the ones that are part of the list, and just before the last one you don't have a comma, but you write and the last one. So that's the first part of your activity. Now the second thing you need to do is to look on the Padlet. There's a little map. It's a map of the world, and it shows you where polar bears live. And I've got a question for you. I've got several questions about bears now, but the first one I want you to answer is, what do you notice? So it's a bit like a book talk, and you have to look at it and think, oh, what do I notice? So you might notice it's a map of the world, and you might notice that part of it is a different colour. I want you to think, oh, I wonder what that bit shows. And then I'll just give you a clue because that's where the polar bears live. And then I want you to think, well, why do polar bears live there and not anywhere else? Because it's quite specific where they do live. So I want you to have a think about polar bears and why they only live in the place where it's shaded. I also want you to think about, and this is going to take a little bit of research, there are only a few different bears. How many bears are there? And do we have bears living in Great Britain? You're not allowed to count the ones in the zoo. I'm thinking in the woods and the forest. Do we have them here? I want you to tell me. Good luck.